Have you got More Than car insurance behind you? More Than, sponsors of Fifth Gear.
Hello and welcome to a Fifth Gear special on sports cars.
We will reveal what we think is the best sports car in the world.
And we'll also be telling you how to buy one on the cheap.
But first, what actually is a sports car?
How about Lamborghini's awesome Murcielago? Sorry, no, it's four-wheel drive.
And Pagani's Zonda doesn't count either. There may be a Roadster now, but it was originally conceived as a tin top.
So out goes Porsche's amazing 911 Turbo. It's got a roof and four-wheel drive.
And even my favourite, the Ferrari 360 Modena, doesn't come into the true sports car bracket.
Because this is a sports car. It's a 1958 Austin Healey Frog Eye Sprite. It may not have a V12 under the bonnet or one of those prancing horses on the front, but it's got everything that a proper sports car should have. It's manual, rear-wheel drive, and was designed and launched purely as an open-top car. It hasn't got one of those cumbersome retractable hardtops, and it's not some coupe or saloon with a roof chopped off. You see, a sports car doesn't need to have stealth fighter styling, sledgehammer power, fancy trim, or an exotic price tag. It just has to make you smile. But let's not get carried away with nostalgia. The Sprite is hopeless by modern standards. There are no brakes, it's a liability in cold weather, and with 43 horsepower, it's about as quick as a milk float. But thankfully, we've come a long way since 1958.
And this is where we are today. We've gathered together what we believe to be the best sports cars on sale in Britain.
All are rear-wheel drive, have manual gearboxes and have been designed and launched as sports cars. What's more, they have easy access to the sun and have been created with the sole intention of having lots of fun.
But which one's best? Which one ticks all those boxes? B-road thrills, practicality, value, lots of pedigree, lots of style, and can give you a big rush round a circuit. Which is the world's best sports car?
Well, when it comes to blatting round a circuit, no car does it better than this, the Radical SR3. And don't be fooled into thinking it's only for the track, because this piece of paper here means it's road legal. And just to prove it, I'm going to take it to the shops. The Radical is the closest thing you get to a racing car on the road. Under that huge air intake, there's only a 1.3-litre motorbike engine. But because the Radical weighs just 500 kilos, it's frighteningly fast. 0 to 60 in 3.1 seconds fast. In fact, it's the fastest car I've ever been shopping in. You see, we're in Tunbridge Wells High Street, stomping ground of the posh. And if I apply just one picojoule of pressure too much to the throttle, we'll end up in some green welly shop. You're always aware that just one false prod of the pedal will send you hurtling down the high street at race car speeds. I've never felt an experience like it. I'm only going 17 miles an hour. Both my legs are shaking. My heart's beating like a steam train. My mouth's so dry, my tongue is stuck to the roof of my mouth. And I'm absolutely terrified and a bit excited at the same time. I just don't want to stuff it. I needed to get out of town and onto a track with an expert. So I've employed the services of Tiff to explore its full potential. OK, Tiff, let's have it.
I think you ought to tighten your seatbelts, Adrian.
Tiff! No!
never been so bright in all my life. I want to get out. I'm speechless. I'm really sick. I'm just feel so bright.
What Adrian is trying to say is that apparently he isn't overly impressed with the slick change of the 6-speed sequential motorbike gearbox, the instant reaction to every twitch of the steering wheel, and a few minutes living on the edge. With just 1300cc, the Radical will lap any racetrack in Britain faster than the fastest of supercars.
I've never ever had an experience like that before in my life. That was absolutely awful.
I'm sorry, Tiff, this can't be the best sports car in the world. You'd have to be a dedicated masochist to use one every day, and it only makes sense if you're into hardcore track action.
Now if, like Adrian, you find the Radical a little excessive, there is an alternative.
Caterham have been building their classic Lotus 7 replica for years. It is better on the road than the Radical because it's got proper road suspension and no silly spoilers to grind you out over speed bumps. But on an everyday practical level, neither of them are particularly brilliant.
So join us in part 2 when we continue our quest for the best sports car in the world, and I will tell you how to buy it for buttons.
And I'll be showing you how to drive the wheels off it.
Fifth gear.
Welcome back to our quest to find the best sports car in the world.
Now, normally I don't like BMWs. In fact, I hate them. But since we had to choose a sports car that's currently on sale today, this is the nearest thing I could find to a Cobra or an E-Type. Long bonnet, epic engine, convertible, rear-wheel drive. It's not perfect. It has that nasty, common BMW badge on the bonnet, and look inside, and the interior is like Liberace's bedroom. But, and it is a huge but, this car is bonkers fast. It is Holy Mary, Mother of God and all the saints quick. I'm talking 0 to 100 miles an hour in 11 seconds dead.
It also has the looks to stop a speeding train, plus the best product placement of any car in the world, seen by billions sawn in half in a James Bond film.
When this car came out, every BMW dealer was forced to buy some for the showroom, flagship BMW, etc., etc. And you know what? They couldn't sell them, hardly surprising at 80 big ones. Now, I know for a fact that if you're an aggressive negotiator and you walked into a BM showroom with readies, you'd probably buy a brand new one of these for, are you sitting down, £55,000. Okay, we've got a bit of value there. But if you found, say, a private buyer who's got one of these and the car's maybe done 15,000 miles, 20,000 miles, you could expect to pay £45,000. Now that is when this car, BMW or not, left-hand drive or not, starts to get really, really interesting.
So, a sports car with one of the best V8s in the world for just over half its sticker price. What are we waiting for?
Yes, yes, Quentin, but let's get back to real sports cars for real people. To be honest, it's not that difficult to match the Z8's performance for a lot less cash. Now, it would be pretty easy for me to convince you that the Mazda MX-5 is the best sports car in the world. Not only did it dramatically spark the sports car market back into life in the 90s, but it still feels pretty quick. It's fun and easy to drive. It is reliable, and it's still good value, with prices starting at around £15,000. But here and now, it feels a bit too old school, and visually, it would only cause a stir if you'd never seen a car before. If you don't mind not having a boot, then the Toyota MR2 makes a more modern choice. Not only is it superior eye candy, but its handling is sharper than the Mazdas. Plus, we've seen them on sale in car supermarkets for the same price, 15 grand. It is a good option, but for an extra £10,000, you can go for some hardcore homegrown talent in the form of a Lotus. This Elise 111S has bucketfuls of pedigree, great presence and sensational styling. It is brilliant. But there's just one small problem. Lotus don't sell the best Elise anymore. Vauxhall do. You see, the Vauxhall VX220 is actually an Elise underneath. Why it's better has nothing to do with the styling. It's all about a new, more powerful, smoother 2-litre turbocharged engine. And it makes the Elise the sports car that it always should have been. Whereas the Lotus is ultimately more fun on a track, this is quicker than a similarly priced Elise. Tiff won't like the fact that it gets its oomph from an unnatural source, a turbo, but there's no denying that it's pushing all my buttons at the moment. The steering is super quick and it's got lots of feedback. Plus, you don't really get the feeling that the car's going to snap back at you, which is a good thing. The engine is also quieter than the Lotus is, and this car benefits from ABS and an airbag, which may sound nanny-ish to some, but on a day-to-day safety basis, it makes sense. And with 60 coming in under 5 seconds, so does the £25.5 grand asking price. But what am I saying? On a day-to-day basis, you would be driven nuts by the lack of comfort, the frustratingly fiddly roof, and the fact that it is very difficult to get in and out of. It's still not user-friendly enough to be the best sports car in the world. If you want something that's easier to live with, much more civilised and under £30,000, BMW Z4 will be with us later this year. I drove one last October and it didn't disappoint. It's got a great chassis, fabulous engines, and even the controversial flame surface styling has grown on me, but it's not here yet. In the meantime, a very good candidate is this, Honda's S2000. Now, when I first saw the £26,000 Honda, I couldn't quite see what all the fuss was about. It didn't strike me as a particularly pretty car, and it had a dismally dark interior. But then something happened. I hit 6,000 RPM, and that's when Honda's VTEC kicks in. You see, most cars run out of puff at about 6,000 to 7,000 revs, but that's when this one starts to party. And then you realise that the interior isn't boring, it's just incredibly driver-focused. Everything from the stereo to the heater is just a finger flick away. So, is it the best sports car in the world? Well, its strength is also its weakness. That mental engine can only really be enjoyed at race car speeds. And if you thrash it, you're always at risk of losing your licence.
While this TVR Temora doesn't even have to move to make it feel like a real sports car. But it would be a shame not to take it for a little spin. It's much further up the price scale at 36 grand, but in terms of driver aids, it's back with the race-bred Elise. So there's no electric roof, no airbags, and no ABS or traction control to dilute the driving experience, which is a bit of a worry because with 350 bhp, it's got twice the power of the Lotus. But with a car that looks and sounds like this, who cares? Like the Honda, the TVR has its entire interior devoted to the business of driving, with everything cowled round towards me. But unlike its Japanese rivals, I'm delighted to see that the boys from Blackpool have yet to discover the pleasures of plastic. Indeed, there isn't a single piece of it anywhere to be seen. Instead, there's a deluge of leather, aluminium and suede, all centred around these fantastic dials, which in true TVR tradition provide all the basic information in a sort of arse-about-face way, with the rev counter on the right moving anti-clockwise and the speedo providing as little information as possible. But it's still brilliant because, along with the sound of that engine, you can never forget you're in a TVR. Unfortunately, much as I love the TVR Temura's outlandish styling and brutish nature, its lack of driver aids and boisterous character won't be for everyone. So, which is our favourite sports car in the world?
Well, it needs to be as cool as BMW's Z8, as awe-inspiring as the Temura, while still feeling as focused and as well built as Honda's S2000.
And it has to offer the same sort of top value as the MR2 and MX-5 and have the same sort of pedigree as the Elise.
And it needs to be as chuckable as the VX220 and also usable for the odd track day, so it can mix it with the Caterhams and Radicals of this world.
And on Fifth Gear, we agree there is still only one car that can do all of that. The Porsche Boxster.
It may have been on sale for 6 years, and it may not seem to know its front from its rear, but nothing we've tested can beat it. Like its sister, the 911, the Boxster can revel in being redlined on a mountain road as happily as it can cope with a daily commute.
The interior may not be the most exotic, but it is the most comfortable of all these cars and still feels brilliantly built and entirely focused on driver fun. And let's not forget that it's also the most practical car here with, yes, 2 boots.
OK, at just over £38,000, this range-topping 3.2S isn't exactly cheap. But it oozes so much quality, we all agree it's still great value for money.
While Tiff reacquaints himself with Porsche's finest, I'm going to tell you why the Boxster makes the best used sports car in the world. Now, here is one we literally prepared earlier. We found it in the classifieds, fair and square. It's a 97, done 40,000 miles, mint car, full service history, 2.5 Tiptronic, and it's just been sold for 18,500 quid, making it a very cheap car. And hopefully demonstrating admirably that, believe it or not, there are still used Porsche Boxster bargains out there. So here's the bottom line. In the world of sports cars, this little car is one of the slowest depreciators, one of the fastest sellers, one of the most reliable, one of the cheapest, relatively speaking, to own and buy, and the one that has so little that goes wrong. So here is your handy Porsche Boxster used buying guide.
Check that the spec on the underbonnet identification sticker matches the car. Don't bother opting for a left-hand drive, they're slightly cheaper but trickier to sell on, and a foreign service history is harder to check. Mercifully, the interior is bulletproof. These seats have had 6 years' worth of bottoms and look nearly new. Don't forget that this is a quick car, so check for signs of crash damage. This one has yet to see a respray, with all the factory stickers and shut lines exactly where they should be. The hood is electric, so make sure it still works, and pre-2003 cars had a plastic rear screen, so check that it's not cracked or yellow and that the alloys and tyres look like these. The single-pipe 2.5 or 2.7s are more economical and, on average, cost £4 less than the 3.2s.
In fact, so wholesomely sensible and practical that even your mother would approve. But before you start heading for the classifieds like heat-seeking missiles, Tiff, who should have found a racing circuit by now, is about to remind us what owning one of these rinky-tink little roadsters really is all about. So what makes the Porsche Boxster so good?
the driving position is just right. The steering wheel, a tad on the large side, one has to say, but it enables you to better see the beautiful dials just underneath them with the rev counter right in the middle. And the fact that there's also a little digital speedo which says I'm doing 65 miles an hour as I turn into this corner and then promptly spin off. But that was merely because I was talking to you see, and I got the rear wheels on the grass and, well, I spun. I mean, spinning happens, especially when you're allowed the Anglesey racing circuit to play on. But then again, there's that lovely engine tone behind you. That classic Porsche tone that's actually been tuned so it gives just the right noise without being noisy. Then there's that handling balance, which, although maybe a little bit over the top, is generally neutral, it's mid-engine. The steering, communications, everything you could want. You do need to concentrate, obviously, on a circuit. And there's a 6-speed gearbox which just flips between ratios. That's where we spun last time and we nearly spun again. And the fact that I can have so much track day fun with only 260 horsepower shows you don't need brutal power if the balance is right. What's so good about the Porsche? All I can think is everything.
Next week, we're in Iceland, deep and crisp and even on Europe's highest glacier. Sampling £250,000 worth of Maybach and testing Aston Martin's new DB7 GT. Very pretty, very fast, and very, very horny.
Don't forget, for further information on tonight's Fifth Gear, including competitions, log on to 5.tv/Fifth Gear. Next tonight, our movie. Michael Caine stars in the World War II drama charting a dangerous mission behind enemy lines. Too Late the Hero is next.